Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lunch table. My name's Evan. I'm joined with Nick, and today we have a NBA episode for you guys. We're going to be talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the 2025 NBA championship over the Indiana Pacers, the big trades that have happened throughout the offseason already, and who we think is going to win the East because the East is going to look a lot different this next year as it did this year. But before we dive into it, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy and to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at lunchtable.takes. And without further ado, um, we had an epic finals this 2025 season. Um, like I said, Pacers Thunder went to game seven. It was a super hyped up game seven, first game seven since 2016 in the finals. And, it was looking to be a great game. You had the Pacers, who were kind of um, they were the biggest headline of the entire playoffs was Tyrese Halliburton and their success, and then the Thunder, who have been the best team all year, and they had some good battles. Obviously, went to seven, but unfortunately, the Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton went down with a torn Achilles like 7 minutes into the game. I think it was, because he had a calf strain in Game Five.
Yeah. Start a
Um,
game or first quarter game five, he suffered a calf strain.
Yeah, and so that kind of turned into an Achilles injury, which obviously sucks. And it's the same thing that happened to KD in the 2019 finals. But with all of that being said, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the 2025 NBA champions. So, Nick, what were your thoughts on kind of the finals as a whole, and then obviously that game seven?
The finals were very entertaining, and it makes me like hate certain NBA discourse because I remember after game like six, people were saying, "Oh, this finals hasn't been that good," and I'm like, "What series have we been watching?" Obviously, Halliburton hits the winner in game one. The Pacers come back in game three in the fourth quarter, and then the Thunder return the favor in game four. Shea closes it out, shows why he's the MVP. Then both teams protect their home court, including Jalen Williams having a 40 piece in game five, which was all insane to watch on super efficient shooting, like 65% from the floor. And people are saying this finals wasn't great. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And we were set up for a truly all time great game seven, and it was looking that way for the first 7 minutes. Tyrese Halliburton had, I think it was like 9 points before he got hurt. He hit three threes. And you could tell that entire Pacers team was willing to like die to win the title on that night. They were flying everywhere, getting offensive rebounds, hands everywhere. Like they were all over the place. And then uh obviously what happened. I think that might be one of the most devastating injuries in the history of sports ever. I don't think that's hyper. That it might be worse than Derrick Rose's ACL tear, purely just as like an injury because of when it happened. Like
Yeah,
even
because of
with
the stakes.
yeah, when Derrick Rose got hurt, the reason I think why it's looked at such a devastating like injury is because he was never the same, and he was already an MVP winner. He never got back to that point, and a lot of that can be attributed to him just not having the same explosiveness that he had post ACL tear. But even like if he doesn't tear his ACL, there's no guarantee that the Bulls even beat the Celtics in the second round, and I don't think they beat the Heat in the conference finals. So like, would the Bulls have won a title if Rose didn't get hurt in 2012 or whatever it was? I don't think so, and I'm a Bulls fan. But you could tell, like, I'm not trying to be one of those guys that are like, oh, the Thunder don't deserve this championship. They were the best team all year from game one to the last game of the finals, historically dominant team, 68 wins. I'm not saying that it should have an asterisk. This is a well deserved championship for them. But with the way game seven played out and the fact that the Thunder didn't really blow the Pacers away, like they kind of struggled on the offensive side of the ball, and it was their defense in like that 8 minute period in game seven, late in the third, early in the fourth, where the Pacers just could not get anything going on offense. You do wonder with the way Halliburton was playing, if he didn't get hurt, like I think the Pacers had a real shot to win that game. So I think that's what makes it even more devastating. I see people that are like Why was Halliburton playing? Didn't he learn from Kevin Durant? I don't think that's the right way to look at this, because it's like your entire goal as a professional athlete is to win a championship, right? Game 6 and 7 for the Indiana Pacers have more championship merit to them right now than maybe the entirety of next season ever would. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if players are going to get hurt throughout the year. You don't like the Pacers being in that position is already incredibly fortunate for them because of the way they've played. Like, you have to take that chance. Even if you risk an injury like this, which could be career altering for Tyrese Halliburton, like, you're not going to live with the regret of what if for the rest of your life. What if I played game 6 and 7? You know, did I let my team down? Um, it's just incredibly devastating for Tyrese Halliburton, his family, and obviously the Pacers as a whole. Because they lost the game largely because of that. And he's not coming back the entirety of next year, obviously. So yeah, it's incredibly painful, especially considering the run that Halliburton had to get them to this point. Um, it's a very poetic and bittersweet ending to what was truly just a great playoffs as a whole, not just the finals. First round to the finals were all fantastic, big moments in every round. Um, but it's just a disappointing way for it to end, for sure.
Yeah, I was listening to Bill Simmons like right after the game ended, and he was talking about how this finals is going to be weird because like when we look at this like 5, 10 years down the line, I feel like we're going to think more about this Pacers team than we are going to be about the Thunder because they
Yeah.
were just such a story, and they had like the comebacks. They were never out of a game, the game winners, and obviously with Halliburton's injury, like you said, like he hit three threes, and before that, and he was, on that timeout, he was yelling at the crowd, like it was an electric atmosphere, and then he went down, and obviously a lot changed,
We
but
all knew it was over. We didn't know
yeah.
how much the Pacers or the Thunder were going to win by, but we were like, the Pacers aren't winning this game, unfortunately.
But even when Halliburton went down, the Pacers were up one at halftime, so it wasn't like it completely rocked them. Um, Obviously, the Thunder came out that third quarter and kind of put a distance in between it, but there was a second there for in the end of the fourth where they got it down to about like 11 or 10, and I mean, I was thinking like, are they going to do it again? Like, are they going to come back? I mean, TJ McConnell had his heroics that he's had all throughout the playoffs. Benedict Mathurin finally showed up, other than game one, and it was just it just sucks, like to have the run that they had and to have it in their grasp. And I don't want to put an asterisk on this for the Thunder, but I mean, that game would have been so much closer if Halliburton would have played. And I believe that the Pacers would have had a real chance to win, and like it would have gone either way. Um, but it's just heartbreaking for him to, like, this is the moment you've been dreaming of since you're a kid, like game 7 of the NBA finals, like you have a chance to win your team's first ever NBA championship, and for it to like just dwindle that quickly because of an injury, you just never want to see that. And you could tell like just the pain on his face, like when it happened, after it happened. It was just really heartbreaking to see. And um, but I mean, credit to the Thunder. They played a phenomenal series. Like you said, I feel like they didn't shoot the ball very well,
No, this was not a very good shooting series for the Thunder
which
outside of
you would
Shea at all.
yeah, which you would think in the modern NBA you can't really win championships if you don't shoot well. But it was mainly because of their defense. They had like a historic defense. And here's a couple stats about their defense. They were the fourth team in NBA history to win 84 games, joining the 2015-16 Warriors, 96 Bulls, and 97 Bulls. Um, and they had a 11.8 point differential, which is fourth all time. Um, and yeah, I mean, we said this when we kind of previewed the series, like you would have Lou Dort guarding somebody, then take him out, and you have Alex Caruso, then you have Cason Wallace, and then like Chet in that game 7 had big time defensive plays. And it's just they were like by far the best defensive team this year. They put up historic defensive numbers. Um, and for a team that like what did they shoot in game 7? I can't remember what they shot, but I know it wasn't very good.
I know Shea went 8 of 27.
Yeah, he went 8
He
and
had 12
27.
assists, but
Let
let
me
me
look real
find it
quick.
up. Game 7.
Because I know like yeah, they shot 27% from 3, which is not great as a team. So, but it was, I mean, it's just their defense. And like you said, Shea had a great game, obviously winning finals MVP 29 and 12 and becoming one of the few players in NBA history to win regular season MVP, win the scoring title, and win Finals MVP. So just an overall historic season. I mean, he's one of 4 players to average 30 points a game in the NBA Finals, joining like the likes of Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Rick Barry, which are, I mean, if you're in a conversation with Michael Jordan and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you're doing something right. Um,
And
and
Rick
yeah, I
Barry,
mean,
too. Don't diss
and
on
Rick
Rick
Barry, yeah,
Barry.
I'm not sleeping on Rick Barry,
Yeah,
but
70s legend. Unironically.
Kareem and Michael are,
Yeah, that's rare air.
yeah. Um, and I think he was the first person since Shaq to win MVP and Finals MVP, or was it to be a scoring champion in MVP or Finals MVP? I can't remember.
I'd have
I
to
think it
think
might.
about that.
I think it was scoring champ and MVP or Finals MVP. But nonetheless, the Thunder played a great series. Obviously, Shea was a big catalyst. Jalen Williams was a big catalyst as well. Like you mentioned, he had that 40-point game, and really, other than that game 6, had a really good series. Obviously, that game 6, he had a minus 40-point differential, or plus minus, but
Not
uh,
great, but it doesn't matter now.
no, but yeah. Um, but the thing that is just fascinating to me is the average age of this team was 26 years old. And for them to already be this good at this level when you have J Dub and Chet at 22, Shea at 26, like they're just such a young team, and to already be this good is really impressive. And it's kind of cool, like when you look back in the offseason, they made that trade for Alex Caruso, and a lot of people were like, all right, like they're going to be the finals champs. Um, and it's just how crucial Caruso is on his championship team. He's a 2-time NBA champion now. And I mean, he just made so many plays throughout the series, and he was like the leader of the team. Like after their post game like celebration, they're like, I have no idea what to do. Like I've never really
Done this
drank
before,
before.
yeah.
Like they're like, Caruso, like what do we do? Like it just shows you how young they are. Like they don't even know how to like pop champagne or party. Um, but it's just crazy to think like how, I guess, ahead of schedule that these guys are. Like to be this young and already be this good, and most of their players haven't even hit their primes yet, is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. It shows the genius of Sam Presti. Because like obviously I think the trade that the Clippers made for Paul George might go down as the worst trade in NBA history. It's probably either that or the Luka trade, which is crazy because they both happened in the last like 7 years or something nuts. But like it's already resulted in a potential future dynasty for another team, and like it's like when the Cowboys traded away like what's his face Herschel Walker for their like an entire they got Emmitt
Mm-hmm.
Smith and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And that essentially fueled their dynasty of the 90s. I'm not saying the Thunder are going to be the next dynasty in the NBA, but it would not shock me at all if they became that because of the age of their team and the amount of draft picks that they have. And I get the whole second apron thing. It's already messing with some teams' rosters, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a couple of minutes. But um, like even if they lose either Chet or Jalen Williams, like they have so much draft capital that it's not going to matter. They can either just replace them with other good role players or get another mega superstar to fill that role and just have a god tier starting 5. So yeah, I don't think the Thunder are going to go away for a while. I think that's another reason why I think we're going to talk about the Pacers team more is because we don't know if the Pacers are going to get back here. And the Thunder, they might not make the finals every year, but they're not. They're going to be a top like 3 team in the West for the foreseeable future. Um, so yeah, uh, still great job by Sam Presti, one of the best executives in NBA history already. Just because of the amount of moves he's made to get them in this position. And yeah, the Thunder, in theory, can only get better, which is terrifying.
Yeah, I mean they have 2 first-round picks in this draft. They have the 15th and 25th pick, and they have potentially 4 next year and 13 throughout the next probably 5 or 6 years, which is
An
insane. So
average of
yeah,
over 2 per year
yeah.
for
So
the
like
next half
even
decade.
if even if they have to choose between Chet and J Dub, like the way that they've been drafting, like I wouldn't be surprised if they get that third guy and just kind of rinse and repeat just because of how many draft picks they have. And yeah, I mean, just hats off to Sam Presti. He's probably up there with like Danny Ainge as one of the best GMs like of all time. And it's just crazy how one trade 5 years ago set this team up for success like it has. And just credit that whole organization. I mean, if to think that they had, I mean, what, 10 years ago, or yeah, 10 years ago, they had Russ, KD, and Harden to now winning a championship. I'm sure if you ask a Thunder fan once, they kind of broke that big 3 up, like, if you guys are ever going to win a championship, their answer would probably be no. Because they're like, if we can't win at these 3, there's no way we're ever
Who's going
going
to
to win
come
one.
through to win it for us?
Yeah. Um, but I mean, they played their cards right. And I think Presti laid the blueprint to um, how to rebuild in the modern NBA, but unfortunately, teams have wised up now and aren't going to make the same mistakes that the Clippers did. Um, but yeah, I mean the sky's the limit for the Thunder. Like if you're betting on anybody to be the next dynasty of the NBA, it's going to be the Thunder, just because of how young they are, how good they are already, and how many future assets that they have. And that's not even saying they have to use all those draft picks. Like they could trade a couple of those and a player to get a disgruntled star at any moment if they really wanted to. So it will be interesting to see how this team plays out. But the West is as stacked as it's been in a long time, so it's not like they don't have any competition. Um, and the competition did get a little bit stronger in the West as Kevin Durant got traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Houston Rockets. He had been kind of named in trade talks for a few months now. Um, but people were kind of wondering what the package would be, what team. He gave a list of teams they wanted to go to, and the Rockets were on that list. And so the Suns got Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th pick in this year's draft, the 59th pick in this year's draft, 226 seconds, a 2030 second, and 2032 second for Kevin Durant. So obviously for a guy like Kevin Durant's caliber, just off of like the trade, you would think that's not a lot, but um, just with his play recently and his age and stuff, you knew you weren't going to get a whole lot. But we'll start with the Rockets. How do you feel about this trade for the Rockets, and then we'll go to the Suns after?
I think the Houston Rockets look scary for next season. They've got a projected starting 5 because their issue last year was they didn't have enough consistent scoring and really consistent shooting, right? Well, Kevin Durant just fixes that immediately. I get he's not in his prime. You're still gonna get probably minimum 25 to 30 a game from him on decent shooting. Um, so they now have an offensive like piece to go through. In terms of just putting points on the board. But they've got Fred VanVleet, experienced championship point guard, right? He's still very good. They've got Amen Thompson, elite, versatile, athletic wing. Kevin Durant, who speaks for himself. Jabari Smith Jr., elite defensive forward that's also very athletic. And Alperen Sengun, who people call a baby Jokic because of just the way he plays. They've got Steven Adams on the bench, who will help with their defensive rebounding. And then they've got a guy like Reed Shepard on the bench. He was a top 5 pick in last year's draft and is a sharpshooter from three, who didn't really play because he couldn't really play defense, and Ime Udoka doesn't really like that. But now that's another like syringe that they can shoot. The Rockets are a very, very well balanced team now, and people forget they won 52 games last year with said consistent or really inconsistent scoring. And they took the Warriors to 7 games, who obviously have Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry. You know, they're not the Warriors of the past, but they've still got some of the greatest players in NBA history on their team. Um, One of the best point guard of all time on their team. And they still took them to 7 games. So I think that the Houston Rockets are going to be very, very scary. I think it's a great trade for the Rockets. I get they gave up a lot of capital, but most of it was second round picks. So it's not like the NFL or something where a second round pick is a big deal because you could get like a legitimate all pro in the second round. Like the only real second rounder that's had that kind of impact is Nikola Jokic in NBA history, really. So unless one of their picks turns into another Jokic, which I highly doubt, I think this will go down as a pretty good trade for the Rockets. Even if they don't win a title immediately, because Durant can provide mentorship to the younger guys on that team and kind of like the Master Splinter and like the Ninja Turtles thing, where they kind of grow as Kevin Durant fades back due to age. So yeah, I think it's exactly what the Rockets needed. I think if you're a Rockets fan, you should be ecstatic. You should be really excited. I think they're a legitimate Western Championship contender for this upcoming season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the most impressive thing is, yes, Jalen Green is like a big piece, but they still have their fundamental young core. Like you mentioned, they still have um, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, Alperen Şengün, Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason, Reed Shepard. Like they still have this young nucleus of guys. So if they don't win a championship in the Kevin Durant era, I'm assuming he'll probably play 2 to 3 more
Yeah, like
years,
3 years
depending
top.
on. Um, you're not regretting that trade at all because you still have young guys who, like you said, they were the 2 seed last year with this exact same team, just minus Kevin Durant. They were the 2 seed. Um, and I think you swap a inconsistent scorer who has still a lot of potential in Jalen Green for one of the best pure scorers the game has ever seen in Kevin Durant. And yes, he's not, in his prime or anything, but I mean, he's still an elite offensive player. I mean, last year he was 6th in the NBA in scoring, averaging 26 a game. Like, he's still an elite offensive player. And you pair that with Amen Thompson, who's a freakish, twitchy athlete who's insane at defense, and Şengün, who, like you said, is baby Jokic, is a great distributor. Jabari, who still has potential and is already a good defender. Eason, who's a scrappy defender. Reed, who's a good shooter. And then they just re-signed Fred VanVleet for a couple more years. So they have all the makings to be a team that can really push the Thunder. And if I were to say an early team in the West that I think could, it would be them. And Ime Udoka is a great head coach. Obviously, he's done a really good job with that team. And it's just, I think it was a perfect trade for the Rockets. I think it catapults them into serious championship contention, especially with how bad the East is. If they can just get out the West, I would pick them to win the whole thing. Um, but I mean, like getting rid of Jalen Green is fine. He was a good player, but we saw in the playoffs he just was too inconsistent at times and had games where he was a no-show. And then the 10th overall pick, I mean, they were so deep this year that the number 3 overall pick didn't even play. So they don't even really need that number 10 overall pick. And then, yeah, getting rid of like 5 or 6 seconds really isn't going to hurt you in the long run. So I think this sets them up perfectly for the now and for the future. And I think it was just a perfect trade for the Rockets. What did you think about it on the Suns side? Obviously, they have some stuff to work out.
Yeah, I think when the Suns traded for Kevin Durant, this is kind of the expectation that was going to happen, regardless if they won a championship or not with the core that they had. Um, is that they were going to get diminishing returns on whoever they decided to trade. Is Kevin Durant worth more than one first round pick and Jalen Green and then a buttload of seconds? Yeah, probably. Is he also like 37? So you can't expect a true haul in return? Yes. So, I like obviously the Suns lose this trade. Like they don't, they're not in a great position. They didn't get Kevin Durant value, I believe, for Kevin Durant. But this is, I think, the best they could have done, to be truthfully honest with you, because of the situation regarding Durant and his age and whatnot. And everyone knows that he doesn't deserve to be on a team like Phoenix, who is, going to probably hit a hard reset button within the next year or two. Like I'd be shocked if Devin Booker is still a Phoenix Sun in 2027. Um, I mean, the Suns very obviously lost this trade, but it was necessary. They had to do it. Um, they tried going all in, it didn't work, and now they're paying the price for it.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Kevin Durant and you gave up as much as you did to pair him up with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, and all three of them being on mega deals and eating up 98% of your cap or whatever it is. It's just one of those things that it didn't work out. And mainly because I think, now with the second apron and with how the NBA runs, it's just really tough to win in the league when your entire salary cap is alluded to three players. And Kevin Durant's an all-time great. Devin Booker is still, I think he's still like what, 28, 27? I think he's 28, 28 or 29.
Let me look.
Um, and I mean, he's been phenomenal. And obviously Bradley Beal took a big drop off once he got traded there. But um, yeah, I think once we kind of saw the market of what Kevin Durant could be. I mean, the Heat were not even willing to give up like Jaime Jaquez or Khalil Ware for Kevin Durant, and like the Raptors weren't going to give up Jakob Poeltl, like just like guys who you would think, why on earth would you pick them over Kevin Durant? That's just how his market is right now. So it wasn't very big, and then obviously he gave the teams that he wanted to go to, and the Rockets were on that list, and I guess that was the best they could find from those lists of teams because, like I said, the Heat really weren't crazy about it. And honestly, if I'm the Heat, I'm glad I didn't do that because I wouldn't have helped you much at all. But yeah, the Suns are in an interesting position where they have three shooting guards that are all making about like 200 million. And I mean, Booker can play the point; he's done it before, but he's more of a true two. And Jalen Green, I've heard they might try to package him again,
Yeah, I
but
think they said that the Suns are going to look on moving Jalen Green as
yeah.
soon as they can.
So, I mean, I think him and Booker could work out. It could be fun, but defensively, that's going to be a bad backcourt. And then, I mean, Bradley Beal's just a non-factor at this point. You're just kind of waiting for his contract to run out because he's just not that great of a player as he once was. But I think the biggest piece that could be in this trade for them is that 10th overall pick. If they can nail that 10th overall pick, that could start to, kind of kick things into gear a little bit more for them. Because, like you said, I would be shocked if Devin Booker's on the Suns for much longer if this continues. I know he's been super loyal to them through like the horrible seasons when he first started, but I mean, at this point, it's
He's
like,
pushing 30.
yeah,
He's got to go
and
somewhere to try to win something.
and you made an NBA Finals. You had Kevin Durant. Like you've tried pretty much everything you can, and it just hasn't worked. So I think it's going to be. It might even be in the Suns' best interest to move on from him and just gain as many assets as you can. Because even at 30, I still think Devin Booker is going to warrant you a pretty good package just because of the player he is. And then if you nail that 10th overall pick, then you can kind of use that as a stepping stone, and then go from there. But
Could also
it will be
trade back
interesting.
the 10th overall pick
Yeah,
to try to
and
get
just
even more assets and try to just stack up as much as you can.
yeah, because you have to remember their picks are all going to Brooklyn, right? Most of them are. So, yeah, they don't have their picks for a while, so they're really in a tough position. Honestly, I think they're probably in one of the worst spots in the NBA when it comes to just cap situation, pick situation. Like they really don't have a lot to work with. So I think they're going to have to make some hard decisions. I think They said they're going to try to trade Beal, but no one's going to want him, so he's going to still be there. If they move on from Jalen Green, I would imagine you could probably get a decent haul for him, but that would probably, depending on what it was, that would just signal to me that you guys are going in full rebuild, which probably isn't a bad idea with just how stacked the West is and how young the West is. It might not be a bad idea just to kind of sit back, let some things happen for a couple years, and then come back into relevance 3 or 4 years down the line once you start to build your team out. Um, but yeah, it's just an interesting situation in Phoenix. They haven't really they they won the NBA Finals, and then after, or not won, sorry, they made it to the NBA Finals, and then after that, it's kind of been an interesting route
Luka
for
stole
them.
their soul in 2022, and after
Yeah,
that, it kind of just fell apart for them.
yeah, but it will be interesting to see, how what they do and everything. But yeah, I mean, obviously they were going to lose the trade. But one thing that I think is interesting, is the Minnesota Timberwolves gave them a pretty good offer, I would say, but he wasn't on the list of teams. But you think like the Timberwolves offered Gobert, DiVincenzo, Rob Dillingham, and or Terrence Shannon, and the 17th overall pick. So if KD came out and said he didn't want to go to Minnesota, but if he didn't, I mean, that obviously would have been a lot better of a return than what you would have gotten from uh, the Rockets. But you know, the way that the NBA works, players have all the empowerment, so you got to do what you can. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. They really have to nail. I think if they nail that 10th overall pick, it's not going to look as bad. But I'm interested to see kind of the route that they look because they're not in a good spot right now, I would say. But you mentioned this a little bit earlier. With the second apron, it forces a couple of teams to make some tough decisions. One of them being the Celtics. Obviously, they won the NBA championship just last year, and they had to make some tough situations just due to cap because they were going to be like very over the second apron, and so that led to them trading Drew Holiday to the Portland Trailblazers for Anthony Simons and two future second round picks. And then just yesterday, they did a three-teamer that net got them Georges Niang as in a second. The Hawks got Kristaps Porzingis, and the Nets got Terrence Mann in the 22nd pick in this year's draft. So, um, obviously, the Celtics didn't expect to get anything great out of these. They were mainly just salary dumps, but um, I do feel like they got a pretty decent return in the Drew Holiday
Yeah, they
trade, at
they
least.
absolutely did. I have no idea why the Trailblazers would do that. Like I don't think it's like a horrible trade because it's not like Drew Holiday's a bad player. He's one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. He's a two-time NBA champion. But I feel like the Blazers were kind of getting to a spot where they could, maybe be a playing team and kind of build around this young core that they had. And now Anthony Simons, who's one of their biggest pieces, they just traded away. So and he averaged 19 points a game, 19, 3 and 5 on a steal per game. I'm not quite sure how like his shooting percentages were. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch a ton of Trailblazers games this year. Um, yeah, he shot 43% from the floor, so that's not like it's average. It's not great. Um, but he's 26. Like he's got room to grow. You would think. Could be a little spark off, or it could be a little spark for Boston. Maybe in that shooting guard. Maybe they move Jason Tatum when he gets back to small forward, which I actually don't even know. I don't even know if the Celtics are done. They might have to trade like a Jaylen Brown. There's been talks about him potentially being traded because obviously Jason Tatum's not playing the entirety of next year. Um, so yeah, I don't know if the Celtics are done, but I do think that this trade, I think they got a pretty decent haul in return. A young, not efficient score, but still gives you 20 a game. If you can get that percentage up, he would be a quality piece for them for sure. And kind of transition into like potentially a very good second or third option for the Celtics as they move to a new core of players, I would say. And then the Porzingis trade happened later on last night. I actually haven't looked at all of it. I know Porzingis went to the Hawks, and it was a 3-team trade. Go. Let me. You talk about the Porzingis trade. I'm not super knowledgeable about that yet.
I mean, this was just basically like your classic salary dump. Porzingis probably had the least amount of value out of between him and Drew, and getting Georges Niang, who's just like an okay bench player, and then a second. It's mainly just a salary dump just to get them far under just to try to get them as close as they can to under that second
Being
apron.
under the second apron.
But
I don't know how I feel about the second apron as of right now. I get it does promote competitiveness. That is for sure. It does make teams' ability to keep their core together much more difficult than it was. So I think for true NBA fans, it's good, but I feel like the casual fan watches to see dynasties be born and see them succeed. So we'll see how it impacts the longevity of the league in terms of just fan interest. But it's definitely interesting for sure.
yeah, well, I mean, it's mainly in place just so you don't have like a Kevin Durant Warriors situation, where you just can't give five players $100+ million and get away with it. But yeah, like I mean, like you said, that does make the team building aspect of it a lot more difficult and a lot more strategic because you have a window now to really win. And I'm sure a team like the Thunder is going to have to run into this problem a couple years down the line once they have to pay Chet and J Dub. Um, but I mean, for the Celtics, I mean, you were paying Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum max contracts, which were deserved around like 300 million, and then like Drew, Derek White, and Porzingis were all in like the 150 to 100 million dollar range. So I mean, that's just a lot of money to give to like five guys, you know. Um, but I think it's not as bad for the Celtics because they already won a championship. They're too young. If they can keep Brown, obviously, if they get rid of Brown, I think it changes things. But if they can keep Brown, you still have Tatum and Brown and Derek White, and I mean Drew and Porzingis were big pieces in that championship run. But I mean they're just getting up there in age, and you could tell they're kind of on the decline. But I mean the second apron, what it really does, I think it just pushes so much more pressure on the draft. I think it makes it so you have to nail your picks to be a good team because you can't just go out and sign the biggest free agents every single year or you're going to run into some problems. So you really have to nail the draft that way. You could have guys on cheap contracts for 4 to 5 years and then go from there. But yeah, I mean, the Celtics, I mean, we knew this was going to happen and I'm honestly surprised that they even got anything of value worth in return. I thought it was mainly all going to be kind of how the Porzingis trade was, where it's really just your basic salary dump. But to get Anthony Simons, who's only 26 and is a good shooter and can be the lead guy on that bench, I think could be good. And we'll see if they have to move on from Brown. I think then we're going to have some serious conversations about the Celtics moving forward because obviously the biggest thing has been like, you know, can Tatum be like a true one or like does he have to have like Jaylen Brown next to him and all that stuff. So it will be interesting if they do end up going that route, but um, I think they're like $6 million above the first apron. So I think they're like right. They're super close, but yeah, I mean, the East looks a lot different now because, I mean, the Celtics were a huge contender these past 2 years, and now they look a little bit different. But I mean, if anybody can rally from this, that's the Boston Celtics. I mean, they have a genius head coach in Joe Mazzulla, and their front office seems to be a step ahead of everybody always. So, um, I think they're going to figure it out. But there was another like random trade that kind of happened that the Pelicans got Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey, and the Wizards got CJ McCollum, excuse me, and Kelly Olynyk. I don't really know what either team was thinking on this one. Mainly the Wizards. That makes absolutely no sense to me. But I guess this was a trade.
It was one of the trades of all time.
Yeah.
The Wizards lineup looks really bad. Like, really bad.
They just don't make any sense to
No.
me as a team. Like if you like I saw the direction they were heading because you had like you picked Sar with the first overall
Yeah.
pick. Then you had Balal, who's a good like lengthy defensive wing. Bob Carrington was pretty good this year, and now you bring in CJ McCollum, who's I mean, he's averaged I think 20 a game for the last like 10 years or whatever, but he just doesn't fit the timeline at all. And at least Jordan Poole was young-ish and was like exciting. So I don't feel like they accomplished anything with this trade. It just is a trade that they did, but
I mean, unless, like, they want Middleton and McCollum to kind of just set a professional tone for the next few young guys that they inevitably get, because they're going to be terrible for the
yeah,
next couple of years at least. That's kind of the route I could see them going. Because Poole's not like super young. He's 26 now. Like, he's obviously still got another probably 2-3 years before he reaches his prime, but he's not like a brand new draft pick that they have.
yeah,
So I think the Wizards are trying to just like set up a different kind of culture for the next couple years so they can try to be relevant again. But it's the Wizards, so who knows if they actually will be? They probably
yeah,
won't be. Um, and then on
yeah.
the Pelicans side, it's kind of just like money. I feel like because McCollum's
It has to
gotta
be.
that has to be the reason. They had to have been trying to shed some money. Because McCollum they're obviously not going to be a super duper contender now either. It's just kind of been a mess for the Pelicans as well over the past few years. Um, so I just kind of think both teams are trying to do a reset with this.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was just a weird
It's a
trade. And
very
like,
odd trade to
yeah,
look at.
I didn't see it coming at all, but um, I guess we'll see. Yeah, I guess it would make sense that they were bringing McCollum just to kind of mentor and because yeah, I mean they're not going to be good. We already know that. Um, and you would think McCollum would go to like a if he were to get traded, would go to like a perennial contending team that can push them into the play-in or out of the play-in or whatever. Um, but I think the biggest question mark that's heading into next season is how is the East going to shake out? Because, like we just mentioned, the Celtics are going to look drastically different. The Pacers are going to be without their best player. The Cavs were the one seed this year, but they had a quicker exit than most expected them to have in the um, Eastern playoffs. The Magic just traded for Desmond Bain. You have the Bucks who are kind of there, would still have Giannis, but Dame's going to miss a
Dame's
lot
got
of
an Achilles
time.
tear, yeah.
The Sixers, who seem to be kind of a mess. The Heat, who are kind of just always there, but never have it, like aren't any a great team anymore. So the East is, I feel like it's as wide open as it's been in a long time. And I mean, usually the West is better than the East, but I'm very curious to see how the East goes. So obviously, I mean, the finals just ended like 4 days ago. But if you were to say today, like, what are some teams that you think could make it out of the East?
It's been a few years, I think, since the East hasn't really had a true like A1 contender. Um, that's not saying said A1 contender makes it out of the East every year, but I think the last time was like 2019, where the East had genuinely like 3 or 4 teams that I feel like could make it out of the East. I'm gonna start with the Knicks, who made the conference finals this year. Lost in 6 to the Pacers. They could, I think, very obviously, easily take the East.
They find a head coach.
Yeah, if they get a head coach, I think they could come out of the East because Brunson's obviously a very good number one to have. If Cat can be more consistent, they'll have a legitimate second option. We'll see if they kind of keep that defensive intensity now that Tibbs is not their head coach anymore. So I think the Knicks could be an option. I think the Magic could be an option as well. Obviously, 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bain is absurd. Uh, but Desmond Bain is he's a good player, and he's going to complement the Magic very well. They kind of need a guy who can stretch the floor and shoot well from the outside and kind of be a second plug and play guard along with Paolo. So if Bane fits like I think that he could, I think the Magic could very easily be a dark horse. Um, I think if you're a Cavs fan, the expectation for next year is you win the East. Like, there's no excuse now. All of your main contenders are, they're not going to really be, like, maybe Boston is still good, but, like, the Pacers and the Celtics and even the Bucks, they're not going to be, there's no excuse now. You are very clearly a better team than all of them. Um, However, if you had to ask me today who I think is going to come out of the East, this might be a shock answer, but I'm going to say the Detroit Pistons. Because I think Cade Cunningham is that guy. I think he is going to be a true elite guard in the NBA. He had 26, 6, and 9 on 47% shooting. Um, that Knicks Celtics series, like the not Knicks Celtics, the Knicks Pistons series. The Knicks obviously took that in 6, but every game was close. Like that series, if a couple of bounces go the Pistons' way, the Pistons very easily could have won that series. I think it was like separated by less than 10 points over 6 games, which is crazy. Um, and their core in general is just very, very young. Uh, they obviously got Cade Cunningham. They've got Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson. Jaden Ivey's coming back. He had an injury early on in the year. Tobias Harris has found form again, which is really crazy because he was a bit of a meme in Philadelphia. Schroeder's got veteran experience. Like, I think if Cade Cunningham takes that next step to be a truly elite guard next year, I think it would be the Detroit Pistons because they've got that youthful energy. They play with defensive intensity. They've got a true leader in Cade Cunningham. Um, I'm blanking on their head coach right now. Who's their head coach? I know.
Monty.
Yeah, Monty. Monty's obviously a good head coach. Bickerstaff's a good head coach.
Oh,
Um,
sorry, it was Bickerstaff. My
yeah.
fault. It was
Bickerstaff,
Monty.
obviously, he's a pretty solid
Yeah.
head coach. Detroit loves the Pistons, obviously. They've got a rich basketball history. Um, I think if you had to ask me, it would be either the Cavs or the Pistons. And I'm going to be a little bold. I think if you ask me in June who I think is going to come out of the East, that's going to be Detroit. I think that when they do get to the finals, though, like very early prediction, whoever they play is going to destroy them. Whether it be the Thunder or the Rockets or like the Nuggets or whoever makes it out of the East again, or out of the West again. But I really like the direction that the Pistons are heading. And I think they've got something building there for sure.
Yeah, I think all the teams you listed are definitely going to be in contention for that East title. Um, Cleveland, like you said, I mean, they were the best team this year from the East, and yeah, the expectation for them has to be fine, like make the finals, win the East. If not, then that's a failed season. Um, and then the Knicks, I think they could still be it. It just hangs on who they get as a coach because right now it seems like they have no direction on who they're getting as their head coach. Um, but if they get a good coach, obviously you're still returning all the players that were just in the Eastern Conference Finals and are still very good. I think Brunson's a great player. Cat played really well. He just has to get better, obviously defensively, and then you still have Hart, OG, and Mikal and all those guys. But yeah, I would say like the two newer teams would definitely be the Magic and the Pistons, which the Magic have kind of been you've seen the trajectory of this team from when they got Palo and then they got Franz and kind of they've been building to this and now being aggressive and trading for Desmond Bain. I think he should fit well with them. And I think that they're going to make that next step. And with the East being a lot weaker, I think they could definitely go far. And yeah, I think the Pistons are definitely going to be a team to watch out for because you have Cade, who's always who's continuing to improve, and yeah, if he can get that to that elite guard status, that definitely helps them. And you have Jaden Ivey coming back, which I think is a huge piece. You have Asar Thompson in year 3, right, or
I
year
think
2,
so.
year 2 or 3. You still have Jalen Duren. You have Tobias Harris, who is good. Then you have Ron Holland on his second year. So Yeah, I think any of those teams are definitely where you'd be in, and I do think there's still a chance that the Sixers could still be relevant. They do have the fifth pick. No, yeah, fifth pick in this year's draft. So I've heard Ace Bailey potentially. Um, kind of guys like that. So if they can actually no, sorry, they have the third pick. So if they can get like a VJ Edgecombe or a Ace Bailey, like another scorer to that team, and you have Jared McCain coming back healthy, pairing him up with Maxi and Embiid's always a question mark, but if you can string a healthy season out of him, I still think the Sixers have some life. I don't think they're dead in the water yet, but they would need a lot of things to go right. But yeah, I would say what did you name? Five teams. The five teams that you mentioned are definitely going to be the first ones. And I mean, I still think the Celtics would can make the playoffs. And I mean, we saw with the Pacers, no matter what happens to them, they have no quit. So I do think the Pacers they're not gonna be finals contenders, but I think they're still gonna have a strong season just because
Of
they're
how
just such
deep
a
they are.
resilient
Yeah.
team. Yeah. But it will be interesting to see, how the East pans out this year because obviously the West is stacked, but the East, like you said, it's been the first time it's been like wide open in a number of years. So it'll be fun to watch. But obviously, I mean, we're in June, we still have the draft and free agency, so a lot can change. And I mean, the finals ended 4 days ago, and we've already had 3 trades, so the offseason's been off to a hot start. So
It's
a lot of
always
stuff can
hot in the
change.
NBA.
Yeah, it's always fun. So lots of stuff can change from now and then, but it will be fun to watch. It's going to be interesting to monitor. As a Cavs fan, um, I'm liking how it's looking right now, and I'm just hoping that the guys can that make that step because I thought this was going to be the year, but obviously they fell short. But hopefully they can get together. But yeah, we're heading into the off season, which is always fun. The draft, as we're recording this, is tonight, round one. So Cooper Flag will become a Maverick, and that will make the
Still
West a lot.
infuriating that the
Yeah,
Mavs got the first overall pick after
yeah. So
doing one of the
that'll
dumbest trades in sports history.
yeah. So that'll make the West, all the more competitive. Um, and I mean the draft always has like random trades and big trades, so I'm sure some stuff's going to come down tonight, and then free agency starts here in 2 or 3 weeks. So NBA will be fun, but yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for us today. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and we appreciate you guys listening. We will see you guys in the next one. Peace.